The stars looked peaceful through the main window of the New Horizon as Captain Jake Morrison watched his crew work at their stations. The ship moved slowly through space near the Kepler 442 system, while his people took readings and made notes about the planets they found. Jake had been flying ships for 30 years, and he loved these quiet missions where they could explore new places without any trouble. Dr. Lisa Park stood next to her science equipment and smiled as new data came in from the planet scans. She was the best science officer Jake had ever worked with, and she always got excited when they found something interesting. The readings showed that 3 of the planets in this system might be good places for humans to live someday. The air looked clean, and the water was there too. Captain Morrison, "We are getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. He was young, but good at his job, and Jake trusted him to watch for problems. Ben looked worried as he checked his screens again. "There are ships coming toward us, and they are moving very fast." Jake walked over to look at the sensor display. The ships were big, and they had weapon systems that looked dangerous. He had seen ships like these before in the military databases. They belonged to the Zephyrian hegemony, a group of alien worlds that liked to fight and take things from other people. The Zephyrians were known for being mean and not caring about peace treaties or rules. "How many ships are there, Ben?" Jake asked as he watched the dots on the screen get closer to their position. The New Horizon was not a fighting ship. It was made for exploring and studying planets. They had some basic shields and a few small weapons, but nothing that could fight off a real attack from military ships. "I count 12 ships, Captain. The biggest one looks like a dreadnought-class vessel. They will be here in about 20 minutes if they keep moving at this speed," Ben said. His hands moved quickly over his controls as he tried to get more information about the approaching. Fleet Jake pressed the button that would let him talk to everyone on the ship. "All crew members, this is the captain. We have unknown ships approaching our position. Everyone should go to their emergency stations and get ready for possible problems. Stay calm and follow the procedures we have practiced." The crew moved quickly to get ready. They had done drills for situations like this, but nobody thought they would ever really need to use what they learned. The New Horizon was far from Earth, and help would take weeks to arrive if they called for ITDR. Lisa Park came to stand next to Jake. "Captain, we have legal permits from the Galactic Council to explore this system. These planets are not claimed by any government according to all the official records we have. The Zephyrians cannot just tell us to leave." "I know, Lisa, but the Zephyrians do not always care about legal things. They take what they want and ask questions later." "Let me try to talk to them and see what they want," Jake said. He hoped they could solve this problem with words instead of fighting the alien ships, dropped out of their fast travel mode, and surrounded the New Horizon. The biggest ship was 3 times longer than the human vessel, and it had enough weapons to destroy them in seconds. Jake could see the other ships taking positions around them, like hunters surrounding their prey. Message came through on the communication system. The voice was deep and harsh, and spoke in the common language that most space travelers used. "Human vessel, you are in Zephyrian space without permission. I am Commander Vex, Thalarin of the warship Crimson Talon. You will leave this system immediately or face the consequences." Jake took a deep breath and answered, "Commander Thalarin, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship New Horizon. We are on a peaceful science mission to study the planets in this system. We have official permits from the Galactic Council that give us the right to explore unclaimed space. This system is not marked as belonging to any government in our records. Your permits mean nothing here, human. This system belongs to the Zephyrian hegemony now. We claim it by right of superior force. Your weak species has no business in this part of space. You have 6 hours to leave, or we will destroy your ship." The alien commander said. Jake looked at Lisa and saw the anger in her eyes. She had worked hard to get permission for this mission, and they had traveled for months to reach this system. The planets here could become new homes for millions of humans someday. But Jake knew that fighting was not an option. The New Horizon could not win against 12 warships. Commander, we need more time to finish our work here. We are not taking anything from these planets, and we will leave when our mission is complete. Surely we can find a way to avoid conflict over this, Jake said. He tried to keep his voice calm and reasonable. You have 6 hours, human. Not 1 minute more. If you are still in this system when the time is up, we will turn your ship into space dust. This is your only warning, Commander Thalleran said. Then the communication ended. Lisa Park worked fast to get as much information as possible about the planets before they had to leave. She knew this might be their only chance to study this system. Her equipment scanned the surfaces and atmospheres of the 3 planets that looked good for human colonies. The data showed rich soil, clean water, and breathable air on all 3 worlds. Captain, these planets are perfect for human settlement. The climate is mild, and there are no dangerous animals or diseases that we can detect. Millions of people could live here and be happy. We cannot just let the Zephyrians take this away from us, Lisa said. Jake watched the alien ships on his screen. They had not moved from their positions around the New Horizon, but he could see their weapons were ready to fire. The Zephyrians were serious about their threat. Jake had to think about his crew and the 200 people on his ship. Their lives were more important than any planet. Lisa, I understand how you feel, but we cannot fight them. Send all the data back to Earth right now. Let the government decide what to do about this. Our job is to get our people home safely, Jake said. 4 hours passed, and Lisa finished collecting all the information she could get. The data packets were sent to Earth through the long-range communication system. Jake also sent a complete report about what the Zephyrians had done and their threats against human ships. Captain, we should leave now. The alien ships are powering up their weapons, Ben said from his sensor station. The young officer looked nervous as he watched the readings change on his screens. Jake gave the order to start the engines and leave the system. The New Horizon began to move away from the planets and toward the jump point where they could enter hyperspace. The crew was quiet as they prepared for the jump home. Everyone felt disappointed and angry about being forced to leave just as they reached the jump point. The Zephyrian ships fired energy beams across the front of the New Horizon. The shots were meant as a warning, but they were close enough to damage the outer hull of the ship. Sparks flew from damaged systems, and 3 crew members were hurt by flying metal pieces. They fired on us, Captain. That was not a warning shot. They were trying to scare us, Ben said. His voice was angry. Now, instead of nervous, Jake helped the injured crew members get to the medical bay while the ship jumped into hyperspace. As the stars changed around them, he thought about what had happened. The Zephyrians had attacked a peaceful ship and threatened to kill innocent people. This was not going to end here. The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks. Jake spent the time writing detailed reports about everything that had happened. He included the recordings of the threats from Commander Thalleran and the evidence that the Zephyrians had fired on an unarmed exploration vessel. The data that Lisa had collected showed how valuable the planets were when they reached Earth. Jake met with Admiral John Stevens and other military leaders. He told them everything about the encounter and showed them the damage to his ship. Hey. Admiral listened carefully and asked many questions about the Zephyrian ships and their weapons. Captain Morrison, you did the right thing by avoiding a fight. But this cannot stand. The Zephyrians have crossed a line by firing on our ship and threatening our people. Something will be done about this. Admiral Stevens said. Jake hoped the Admiral was right. The Zephyrians thought humans were weak and would not fight back. Maybe it was time to show them how wrong they were about that. The New Horizon would be repaired and sent out on new missions. But Jake had a feeling that the next time humans met the Zephyrians, things would be very different. The Prairie Wind was the biggest ship that humans had ever built for carrying people to new worlds. Captain Roy Baker stood on the bridge and looked at the reports showing 15,000 colonists sleeping safely in their travel pods below. His wife Helen Baker worked as the colony administrator, and she had spent 2 years planning every detail of their new settlement. They were going to build the first human city in the Kepler 442 system. Roy had been chosen to command this mission because of his experience with large ships and his calm nature under pressure. He had flown colony ships before, but never one this big or this important. The people sleeping in the pods below had sold everything they owned for a chance to start new lives on distant planets. Colonel Sam Turner walked onto the bridge and saluted Captain Baker. Sam was in charge of security for the colony, and he had brought 50 soldiers with him to protect the settlers during their first years on the new world. The soldiers were good people who wanted to help build something, instead of just fighting wars. Captain, we will reach the Kepler 442 system in about 6 hours. The colonists are waking up from their long sleep and getting ready to see their new home. Helen is down in the main hall, talking to the families and helping them prepare. Sam said Roy smiled when he heard about his wife. Helen loved working with people, and she was good at making them feel safe and excited about the future. She had organized everything from schools for the children to hospitals for anyone who got sick. The new colony would have everything it needed to grow and be. Successful Chief Engineer Pete Collins came over from his station with a worried look on his face. Pete was an older man who had worked on ships his whole life, and he knew when something was not right. He carried a data pad with readings from the ship's sensors. Captain Baker, we are picking up some strange signals from the system ahead. It looks like there are ships already there, but they are not human ships. The energy patterns match Zephyrian military vessels. Pete said Roy felt his stomach drop when he heard this news. He had read the reports from Captain Morrison about the encounter with the Zephyrians 3 weeks ago. The alien race had claimed the system and threatened to destroy any human ships that entered it. But the government had not sent any warnings to the colony mission. How many ships, Pete, and are they in positions to intercept us? Roy asked. He hoped they could avoid the aliens, or maybe talk to them peacefully. The Prairie Wind was not built for fighting. It was designed to carry people and supplies safely to new worlds. I count at least 20 ships, Captain, and they are arranged around the planets like they are guarding them. The biggest ships have enough firepower to destroy us easily if they want to. We should consider turning around and going back to Earth. Pete said. Lieutenant Colonel Turner stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. Captain, we have 15,000 people on this ship who gave up everything for this chance. We cannot just turn around and go home without even trying to land. Maybe we can negotiate with them. Roy thought about his options while he watched the alien ships get closer on the sensor display. The colonists had spent their life savings to come here, and they deserved a chance to build their new home. But he also had to think about keeping them safe from harm. Send a message to the lead Zephyrian ship. Tell them we are a peaceful colony, vessel with families and children on board. Ask them to let us land on one of the planets and start our settlement. We are not here to fight or cause trouble. Roy said the communication officer sent the message, but there was no reply from the alien ships. The Zephyrian fleet began moving toward the Prairie Wind with their weapons powered up and ready to fire. Roy could see on his screens that the aliens were serious about stopping them. Helen Baker came onto the bridge with worry in her eyes. She had been talking to the colonist families, and they were all excited about seeing their new home. The children were asking questions about what the planets would look like and when they could go outside and play. Roy, what is happening? The people are getting scared because they can feel the ship slowing down. Some of the families are asking if there is a problem. Helen said before Roy could answer. The Zephyrian ships opened fire without any warning. Energy beams hit the prairie wind and caused explosions throughout the ship. The lights went out and emergency alarms began ringing. People screamed as they were thrown to the floor by the force of the impacts. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. We are under attack by hostile forces. Everyone get to the emergency shelters immediately. Roy shouted into the ship-wide communication system lieutenant. Amy Foster ran to the weapons station and tried to get their defensive systems online. The prairie wind had some guns for protection against pirates, but nothing that could fight a whole fleet of warships. She fired back at the aliens, but their shots had little effect on the enemy shields. Zephyrian ships surrounded the colony vessel and continued their attack. They aimed for the engines and life support systems, trying to disable the ship without destroying it completely. Explosions rocked the prairie wind, and hull breaches let the cold of space into several sections. Chief Engineer Pete Collins worked desperately to keep the ship running while the attack continued. He redirected power from non-essential systems to the shields and life support. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and smoke filled the engineering section. Captain, we have lost main power to the engines. Life support is failing in sections 7 through 12. We have multiple hull breaches, and the ship is losing air fast. I do not think we can take much more of this. Pete said Roy made the hardest decision of his life. He ordered all civilians to the emergency shelters in the center of the ship, where they would be safest. Then he turned the prairie wind toward the biggest Zephyrian ship and pushed the engines to maximum power. If we are going to die, we will take some of them with us. All remaining crew members brace for impact, Roy said. He hoped the ram attack would at least damage the enemy ship and maybe scare them into leaving other human colonies alone. But the damaged engines failed before the prairie wind could reach the alien ship. The colony vessel went dead in space with massive holes in its hull and no power to its systems. The Zephyrians had won, and now they could do whatever they wanted with the helpless humans. Admiral Keth Vraxon of the Zephyrian fleet contacted the prairie wind on an emergency frequency. His voice was cold and cruel as he spoke to the defeated humans. Human captain, your ship is now our prize. We will board your vessel and take control of all personnel and cargo. Any resistance will result in immediate execution. Roy looked at his wife Helen and saw the fear in her eyes. She was thinking about all the families with children who were hiding in the emergency shelters. These innocent people had come here looking for a better life, and now they were prisoners of a race that did not value human life, the Zephyrian soldiers. Cut through the hull of the prairie wind and entered the ship with their weapons ready. They wore heavy armor and carried energy rifles that could kill a person instantly. The aliens moved through the ship like they owned it, taking control of every section. Helen Baker stood in front of the shelter where the colonist children were hiding and refused to let the aliens pass. She told them that there were only families inside and they should be left alone. The Zephyrian soldiers laughed at her and pushed her aside roughly. These humans will make good slaves in our mines and factories. The children can be trained to serve our needs when they grow older. This ship and its cargo will bring a good price. In the markets, one of the soldiers said Helen became angry when she heard them talking about selling the children as slaves. She grabbed a piece of broken metal from the damaged wall and attacked the nearest alien soldier. Her weapon could not penetrate his armor, but her courage inspired other colonists to fight back. The battle in the shelter was short and one-sided. The Zephyrian soldiers had better weapons and armor than the human civilians. Helen Baker died trying to protect the children she had cared for during the long journey from Earth. Several other colonists were killed before the rest surrendered. Captain Roy Baker and the surviving crew members were forced to watch as the aliens took control of their ship. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Turner and his soldiers had fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, the colony's chief medical officer, tried to help the wounded, but the aliens would not let her treat the injured humans. Zephyrians broadcast live video of their victory to their home worlds. They showed the captured human ship and the prisoners being loaded onto alien vessels. Admiral Vraxen spoke to the cameras and told his people that this was what happened to any race that dared to challenge Zephyrian power. Let this be a lesson to all species in the galaxy. The Zephyrian hegemony takes what it wants and destroys anyone who tries to stop us. These humans thought they could claim our territory, but now they will serve us as slaves. Their ship will be sold, and their people will work in our mines until they die. The news of the attack reached Earth through long-range communication networks. The government declared that the destruction of the Perry Wind was an act of war and demanded the immediate release of all prisoners. But the Galactic Council called for calm and said they would try to solve the problem through diplomatic talks. Admiral John Stevens stood in the war room at Earth Defense Command and looked at the pictures on the big screen. The images showed the destroyed Prairie Wind floating dead in space, with holes burned through its hull by alien weapons. 15,000 innocent people had been on that ship, including children who just wanted to see new worlds and play under different. STARS President Nancy Williams walked into the room with her advisors and military leaders following behind her. Her face was hard with anger as she looked at the evidence of what the Zephyrians had done to the human colonists. She had been president for 6 years and had always tried to solve problems with peaceful talks. But this was different. Admiral Stevens, I want you to prepare our fleet for immediate departure to Zephyrian space. These aliens have attacked our civilians and taken them as slaves. We cannot let this stand without a response. Show me what forces we have available, the president said. General Chuck Martinez opened his datapad and read from the military reports. Madam President, we have been building up our fleet in secret for the past 5 years. The public thinks we only have exploration ships and basic defense vessels, but we have been preparing for something like this. Admiral Stevens pressed buttons on the control panel and new images appeared on the screen. The pictures showed massive warships hidden in shipyards around the solar system. The biggest ship was called the Iron Thunder, and it was twice the size of any vessel the Zephyrians had ever seen. We have been working on these ships since we first made contact with hostile alien races. The Iron Thunder is our newest dreadnought, and it carries weapons that no enemy has ever faced before. We also have 12 heavy cruisers and 30 destroyers ready for combat. Admiral Stevens said. Alex Chun walked forward from his position at the back of the room. He was the head of human weapons development, and he had been working in secret laboratories for years. Most people thought he was just a scientist who studied peaceful technologies, but he had been preparing for war. President Williams, we have developed new weapons that will give us a major advantage over the Zephyrians. Our quantum torpedoes can punch through any known shield system, and our adaptive armor changes to resist whatever hits it. But our best weapon is the Nemesis targeting system, Dr. Chun said. The screen showed detailed diagrams of the new weapons and defense systems. The quantum torpedoes used advanced physics to create explosions that could destroy even the biggest alien ships. The adaptive shields learned from each attack and became stronger against similar weapons. The Nemesis system can predict where enemy ships will move before they actually move there. It studies their flight patterns and weapon firing sequences to know what they will do next. No enemy has ever faced anything like this technology. Dr. Chun explained. President Williams looked at the military leaders around the table. These were good people who had spent their lives protecting Earth and human colonies. They understood that sometimes peaceful solutions were not possible, and force was the only answer that bullies would understand. Admiral Stevens, I am giving you command of Operation Retribution. Take the Iron Thunder and whatever other ships you need. Find the Zephyrians who attacked our people and make them pay for what they have done. Rescue our civilians and show the galaxy that humans protect their own," the president said within 12 hours of receiving his orders. Admiral Stevens was aboard the Iron Thunder preparing for departure. Captain Bill Roberts commanded the massive warship, and he had handpicked his crew from the best officers in the human fleet. These were people who had trained for years, waiting for a chance to prove themselves in real combat. The Iron Thunder was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets of enemy ships. Its hull was made from new materials that could absorb energy weapons, and its engines could move the ship faster than anything the aliens had ever built. Captain Roberts stood on the bridge and watched his crew prepare for war. These men and women had families back on Earth, and they knew they might not return from this mission. But they also knew that innocent humans were being held as slaves by creatures who thought they were superior to the human race. Colonel Kate Logan commanded the Marine units aboard the Iron Thunder and the other ships in the fleet. She had 2,000 of the best soldiers that humanity had ever trained, and they were all volunteers who wanted to rescue the captured colonists. These Marines had new armor and weapons that would shock any enemy they faced. Commander Rick Hayes worked at the intelligence station and studied everything the humans knew about Zephyrian ships and tactics. He had spent months analyzing the recordings from Captain Morrison's encounter and the attack on the Prairie Wind. He knew how the aliens fought and where their weaknesses were. Lieutenant Commander Sue Walsh ran the tactical planning section and worked with Commander Hayes to develop battle strategies. She had studied every major space battle in galactic history and learned from the mistakes that other races had made when fighting the Zephyrian human fleet left Earth's solar system 3 days after receiving their orders. 12 heavy cruisers and 30 destroyers followed the Iron Thunder into hyperspace on a course for Zephyrian territory. The ships moved in perfect formation, like a pack of wolves hunting their prey, while the fleet traveled through hyperspace. The crews trained constantly for the battles ahead. They practiced boarding operations, ship-to-ship combat, and rescue missions. Every person on every ship knew their job and how it fit into the larger plan to defeat the Zephyrians. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian prison ships, Captain Roy Baker organized the surviving colonists into groups that could help each other survive. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Turner used his military training to create a network of resistance among the prisoners. They gathered information about their captors and looked for ways to escape DR. Maria Rodriguez treated the wounded colonists with whatever medical supplies she could find or steal from their guards. Many of the humans had been injured during the attack on the Prairie Wind, and they needed care to stay alive. She also helped boost morale by reminding people that Earth would not abandon them. The Zephyrian guards were cruel and enjoyed making the humans suffer. They gave the prisoners little food and water while forcing them to work on repairs to the alien ships. Children cried for their parents who had died in the attack, and adults tried to stay strong for the young ones who depended on them. Admiral Keth Vraxon celebrated his victory by throwing parties on his flagship while the human prisoners worked in the lower decks. He invited other Zephyrian commanders to see the captured humans and boasted about how easy it had been to defeat them. The aliens laughed about human weakness and made plans to attack more human colonies. These humans think they are civilized, but they are just another primitive race that will serve us or die. We should capture more of their ships and sell the crews in the slave markets. There is good money to be made from these creatures. Admiral Vraxon said to his officers. The Zephyrian propaganda broadcasts spread throughout their territory and to other alien races. They showed videos of the captured humans and claimed that this proved Zephyrian superiority over all other species. Many younger races became afraid that they might be next if they opposed the hegemony. But some of the older and wiser alien leaders watched the broadcasts with concern. They had studied human history and knew that humans could be very dangerous when they were angry. These leaders quietly prepared their own defenses and waited to see what would happen next. Back on Earth, the families of the captured colonists held vigils and demanded action from their government. The news media showed pictures of the missing people and told their stories to the world. Children drew pictures of their parents who were somewhere in space. Being held by aliens, President Williams spoke to the nation and promised that every human being would be brought home safely. She did not tell the public about the secret military fleet or the new weapons, but she made it clear that the Zephyrians would pay a heavy price for their actions. Chun continued working on even more advanced weapons in case the first battle did not go as planned. His teams developed planet-cracking siege weapons and faster-than-light communication systems that would let the fleet coordinate attacks across vast distances. Iron Thunder and its escort ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory after traveling for 2 weeks. Captain Roberts ordered all ships to battle stations and activated the stealth systems that would hide them from enemy sensors until they were ready to attack Admiral. Stevens stood on the bridge and looked at the star charts showing Zephyrian space. Somewhere out there, innocent humans were being held prisoner by aliens who thought they had won easy victory. The Zephyrians were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in their history. All ships. This is Admiral Stevens. We are now in enemy territory, and our mission is clear. We will find our people and bring them home. We will destroy any Zephyrian ship that stands in our way. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. All ships prepare for combat. Operations. The human fleet moved deeper into Zephyrian space like a storm gathering strength. The aliens had no idea that death was coming for them with quantum torpedoes and adaptive shields. The first Zephyrian patrol ships never saw death coming for them. 3 alien vessels were moving through space near the border of their territory when the Iron Thunder appeared out of hyperspace like a ghost ship. Captain Bill Roberts did not bother with warnings or surrender demands. He simply ordered his weapons officer to destroy all 3 ships. The quantum torpedoes hit the Zephyrian ships and tore them apart in seconds. The alien crews did not have time to send distress signals before their vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Admiral Stevens watched the destruction on his screen and felt no sadness for the enemy dead. That is for the children on the prairie wind, Admiral Stevens said quietly. His voice was cold as ice, and his crew knew that their commander would show no mercy to aliens who attacked innocent humans. The human fleet moved deeper into Zephyrian space, using their stealth technology to avoid detection. They found more patrol groups and destroyed them all without warning. Commander Rick Hayes counted the enemy ships they eliminated and marked their positions on the tactical display. Lieutenant Commander Sue Walsh worked with her team to identify the location of the captured colonists. They used long-range sensors and intercepted alien communications to track down the prison ships where humans were being held. The search took 6 hours, but they finally found what they were looking for. Admiral, we have located the main Zephyrian fleet around their fortress world of Vraxos Prime. Our people are being held on ships in that system along with Admiral Keth Vraxon and his command staff. The enemy has over 400 warships protecting the planet. Commander Hayes reported Admiral Stevens studied the tactical information and smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had gathered their entire fleet in one place to celebrate their victory over the human colonists. They thought they were safe in their home system surrounded by their most powerful ships. They have made this easy for us by putting all their ships in one location. Colonel Logan, prepare your Marines for boarding operations. We are going to rescue our people and destroy every alien ship in that system. Admiral Stevens said Colonel Kate Logan gathered her 2,000 Marines in the launch bays of the human ships. These soldiers wore new powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. Their weapons could cut through alien whole metal like paper, and their shields could stop most enemy. Fire Commander Lisa Grant led a team of infiltration. Specialists aboard small stealth ships that could slip past enemy sensors. Her job was to locate the exact positions of the human prisoners and disable the alien ships from inside while the main battle raged outside. The human attack began at exactly midnight ship time. 17 different Zephyrian military bases were hit simultaneously by quantum torpedo strikes that destroyed them completely. The aliens had no warning and no time to fight back before their installations were turned into clouds of burning debris. Captain Roberts took the Iron Thunder straight into the heart of the enemy fleet around Vraxos Prime. The massive human dreadnought appeared on Zephyrian sensors like a monster rising from the depths of space. The alien ships opened fire immediately, but their energy weapons bounced harmlessly off the adaptive shields. The Iron Thunder returned fire with weapons that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Each quantum torpedo that hit an enemy ship caused a chain reaction that tore the vessel apart from the inside. The alien fleet commanders watched in horror as their most powerful warships were destroyed by a single human vessel. Admiral Keth Vraxon stood on the bridge of his flagship Crimson Talon and screamed orders at his crew. He could not believe that the weak humans had built ships capable of destroying his entire fleet. The prisoners in his cargo holds were supposed to be proof of human weakness, not bait for a trap. All ships focus fire on the human dreadnought. Use everything we have and destroy that ship before it kills us all, Admiral Vraxon shouted. But his orders came too late as more human ships appeared from hyperspace and surrounded the alien fleet. Battle became a massacre as the human ships used their superior weapons and defenses to tear through the Zephyrian formation. The Nemesis targeting system predicted every move the aliens made and positioned human ships to deliver devastating attacks. Colonel Logan's Marines launched their boarding pods toward the prison ships where the human colonists were being held. The powered armor let the soldiers punch through alien hull plating and fight their way to the detention areas. They moved through the ships like unstoppable forces of vengeance. Captain Roy Baker heard explosions and gunfire getting closer to his prison cell. He organized the other colonists to help the rescue teams by providing information about the ship's layout and the positions of alien guards. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Turner used pieces of broken metal to arm the prisoners who were strong enough to fight DR. Maria Rodriguez stayed with the wounded colonists and prepared to treat anyone who was injured during the rescue operation. She had kept many people alive during their captivity, and now she worked to make sure they all survived to see freedom again. The Marine assault teams cut through the prison ship defenses like a hot knife through butter. Their new weapons fired energy bolts that could kill Zephyrian soldiers even through their armor. The aliens tried to use the human prisoners as shields, but the Marines were too skilled to fall for such tactics. Commander Lisa Grant's infiltration team had disabled the engines and weapon systems on Admiral Vraxon's flagship. The Crimson Talon was dead in space and helpless as the Iron Thunder moved in for the final attack. The alien admiral knew that his empire was doomed. Human vessel Iron Thunder. This is Admiral Vraxon. I wish to discuss terms of surrender, the alien commander transmitted. His voice shook with fear as he watched his fleet being destroyed around him. Admiral Stevens appeared on the communication screen with his face hard as stone. Admiral Vraxon, there will be no terms and no surrender. You attacked innocent civilians and took them as slaves. The only discussion we will have is at your war crimes trial. The Iron Thunder fired a single quantum torpedo that disabled the Crimson Talon's life support systems without destroying the ship completely. Admiral Stevens wanted to capture the alien leader alive so he could face justice for his crimes against humanity. Captain Roberts coordinated the rescue of the human prisoners while the battle continued around them. The Marines had secured all the prison ships and were evacuating the colonists to safety aboard the human vessels. Medical teams led by Dr. Rodriguez worked to treat the wounded and traumatized. Survivors Captain Baker was reunited with his crew on the bridge of the Iron Thunder. He looked older and thinner after weeks of captivity, but his eyes burned with anger when he saw the alien ships being destroyed. He thought about his wife Helen, who had died protecting the colony children. Admiral Stevens requested permission to participate in the final assault on the enemy fleet. These aliens killed my wife and tortured my people. I want to be part of making them pay for what they have done. Captain Baker said. Admiral Stevens nodded and gave Captain Baker a position at the tactical station. The older captain used his knowledge of Zephyrian ship weaknesses to help target the most dangerous enemy vessels. His information helped the human fleet destroy over 100 alien ships in the next hour. Space battle lasted for 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. Over 400 enemy vessels were turned into scrap metal and floating debris. Only Admiral Vraxen's flagship was left intact so the alien commander could be taken. Prisoner Commander Hayes reported the final casualty figures to Admiral Stevens. Sir, we have destroyed the entire enemy fleet with minimal losses to our forces. 3 human ships took minor damage, and we lost 12 Marines during the boarding operations. All prisoners have been rescued and are receiving medical treatment. The rescued colonists gathered in the main hangar of the Iron Thunder to thank their rescuers. Many of them were injured, and all of them were traumatized by their experience as prisoners. But they were alive and free because human soldiers had come to bring them home. Dr. Rodriguez worked with the medical teams to treat the physical and emotional wounds of the survivors. The children who had lost their parents would need years of care to recover from what they had experienced. But they would have that chance because humanity had not abandoned them. Admiral Vraxen was brought aboard the Iron Thunder in chains and placed in a security cell. The alien commander who had been so proud and arrogant was now a broken prisoner who would face trial for war crimes. His empire was finished, and his people would learn to fear human retribution. The Battle of Raxus Prime marked the end of Zephyrian power in the galaxy. Their military was destroyed, and their worlds lay defenseless against human retaliation. Other alien races watched the news reports and learned an important lesson about what happened when someone attacked human civilians. Admiral Stevens stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the wreckage of the enemy fleet floating in space. The Zephyrians had thought humans were weak and easy prey. Now they knew the truth about what humanity could do when their families were threatened. All ships, this is Admiral Stevens. The rescue operation is complete, and all our people are safe. We have shown the galaxy that humanity protects its own. The Zephyrian homeworlds fell one by one as the human fleet moved through their territory like an unstoppable force of nature. Admiral John Stevens did not need to fire a single shot as planet after planet surrendered, rather than face the same fate as their military fleet. The alien civilians had seen what happened at Fraxos Prime, and they knew resistance was hopeless. Captain Bill Roberts established military governors on each conquered world to maintain order and prevent chaos. The human occupation forces were professional soldiers who followed strict rules about treating civilian populations with dignity and respect. They provided food and medical care while maintaining security. The Zephyrian empire that had existed for over 1,000 years collapsed. In less than 2 weeks, their member worlds declared independence and begged for human protection from other hostile alien races. The species that had once terrorized weaker civilizations now cowered behind human shields. Admiral Keth Vraxen sat in his prison cell aboard the Iron Thunder and watched through a small window as his flagship was broken apart for scrap metal. The proud warship that had carried him to victory over human colonists was now being torn apart by human salvage crews. His empire was gone, and his people were defeated. Captain Roy Baker visited the alien admiral in his cell and looked at the creature who had killed his wife. Vraxen appeared smaller and weaker now that he was no longer surrounded by his soldiers and weapons. The alien who had seemed so powerful was revealed as just another bully who was afraid when he faced real opposition. Admiral Vraxen, you told me that humans were weak and that my people would make good slaves. You said that your superior force gave you the right to take whatever you wanted. How do you feel about that now? Captain Baker asked. The alien admiral looked up with defeated eyes and spoke in a quiet voice. I was wrong about your species, Captain Baker. We thought humans were just another primitive race that could be easily conquered. We did not know that you had such powerful weapons and ships hidden away. Captain Baker shook his head and corrected the alien's misunderstanding. You were not defeated by our weapons, Admiral. You were defeated because you attacked innocent families and children. Every human in our fleet volunteered to come here and rescue our people. That is something your species could never understand. The war crimes trial of Admiral Vraxen was broadcast live across the galaxy so that every intelligent species could see what happened to those who committed atrocities against human civilians. Judge Patricia Webb presided over the proceedings with military lawyers presenting evidence of the aliens' crimes. Captain Baker testified about the attack on the prairie, wind, and the death of his wife Helen. Dr. Maria Rodriguez described the conditions that prisoners had endured on the alien ships. The children who had lost their parents told their stories to the court, and the watching galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming, and the verdict was never in doubt. Admiral Vraxen was found guilty of war crimes, murder, and slavery. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in a human military prison where he would spend his remaining years thinking about what he had done. President Nancy Williams addressed the Galactic Council from the rebuilt Prairie Wind, which had been restored as a memorial to the colonists who died in the attack. The ship now served as a symbol of human determination and the price of attacking innocent civilians. Members of the Galactic Council, humanity has always preferred peace and cooperation to war and conquest. But we will not stand by while other species attack our families and enslave our children. Any government that threatens human civilians will face the full power of our military forces. President Williams said. Admiral Stevens stood beside the President and announced the establishment of the Human Colonial Protection Fleet. This new military force would patrol the galaxy and ensure that no human settlement would ever again face attack without immediate retaliation from Earth. We are placing permanent battle fleets at strategic locations throughout known space. These ships carry our most advanced weapons, and they have orders to destroy any hostile force that threatens human colonies or trade vessels. Consider this your only warning, Admiral Stevens said. Dior. Alex Chun revealed to the Council that the weapons used against the Zephyrians represented only a small portion of human military capability. New technologies under development included planet-cracking siege weapons and faster-than-light communication networks that could coordinate attacks across vast distances. Alien delegates at the council meeting looked nervous as they learned about human military power. Many species had been planning their own attacks on human colonies, but now they reconsidered those plans. The images of the destroyed Zephyrian fleet were still fresh in their minds. Commander Lisa Grant led teams of engineers who were studying captured Zephyrian technology and incorporating useful elements into human ship designs. The aliens had possessed some interesting developments in energy storage and hull metallurgy that could improve human vessels' kernel. Cape Logan established training camps on the conquered Zephyrian worlds where her marines taught local populations how to defend themselves against other hostile species. The former subjects of the hegemony were grateful for human protection, and eager to learn from their liberators. Rescued colonists from the prairie wind were given new homes on Earth while they decided whether to try again to establish settlements on distant worlds. Many of them chose to join the Colonial Protection Fleet to help defend other human families from alien attacks. Captain Baker was promoted to Admiral and given command of the Protection Fleet assigned to the Kepler 442 system. He oversaw the construction of New Hope Colony on the planet that his wife had dreamed of settling. The city was built as a memorial to Helen Baker and all the colonists who had died. Dr. Rodriguez became the chief medical officer for the new colony and established hospitals and schools for the growing population. She worked especially hard to help the children who had been traumatized by their captivity recover from their experiences and build new lives. The Kepler 442 system was transformed into a fortress that could defend itself against any future attacks. Orbital defense platforms and patrol fleets ensured that no hostile force could approach the human colony without facing immediate destruction. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Turner trained the colony militia and established emergency procedures in case of future alien attacks. The settlers learned how to use weapons and coordinate their defense with the military forces protecting their world. Commander Rick Hayes established an intelligence network that monitored alien communications throughout the galaxy. His teams watched for signs of new threats against human interests and provided early warning to the Protection Fleet's other alien species. Began sending diplomatic messages to Earth requesting trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The same governments that had ignored human complaints about Zephyrian aggression now competed for human friendship and protection. The Galactic Council passed new resolutions condemning attacks on civilian populations and establishing procedures for protecting refugee colonies. The council members who had previously called for patience and diplomatic solutions now supported strong military responses to aggression. 6 months after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Captain Jake Morrison of the New Horizon received new orders to explore systems beyond the galaxy's rim. His ship had been upgraded with the latest weapons and defenses in case he encountered hostile aliens in unknown space. The exploration missions continued as before, but now human ships carried the knowledge that they were protected by the most powerful military force in known space. No alien species would dare to threaten human explorers or demand that they leave unclaimed. Systems President Williams announced plans to expand human settlements throughout the galaxy and establish trade routes that would benefit all peaceful species. But she also made it clear that humanity would use whatever force was necessary to protect their interests. Memorial service for Helen Baker and the other colonists killed by the Zephyrians was attended by representatives from dozens of alien species. The ceremony served as a reminder of what happened when someone attacked human families and a promise that such attacks would never be tolerated. Again, Admiral Stevens retired from active duty but remained as an advisor to the Colonial Protection Fleet. His victory over the Zephyrians had made him a hero throughout human space, and his tactical innovations were studied by military officers across the galaxy. Rebuilt Prairie Wind began carrying new colonists to the Kepler 442 system and other human settlements. The ship that had once been a symbol of human vulnerability was now proof of their strength and determination to claim their place among the stars. Chun continued developing new weapons and defensive systems in case humanity faced threats from more advanced alien civilizations. His laboratories worked on technologies that could protect human worlds from any conceivable attack. Warning had been delivered to every government in the galaxy through diplomatic channels and military demonstrations. Human ambassadors visited alien capitals and delivered simple messages that could not be misunderstood. Humanity values peace and cooperation with all intelligent species. We seek trade and friendship with those who respect our rights and territories.